sleep and how to access sleep, how to fall asleep easily, and how to make sure that the sleep we have is of sufficient duration and quality. One way to do that is to leverage the drop in temperature that's necessary to fall and stay asleep. So as I mentioned earlier, in the early parts of the day after waking, our body temperature is rising, and that continues throughout the day. And then sometime late in the afternoon, our temperature peaks, and then it starts to drop. That drop in temperature of 1 to 3 degrees is vitally important for us to be able to fall asleep easily. One way that we can decrease our transition time into sleep is to accelerate that drop in temperature. And one way to accelerate that drop in temperature, somewhat counterintuitively, is to use hot baths, hot showers, or if you have access to one, a sauna. Now, this is counterintuitive because you'd say, well, hot baths, so it's going to heat me up. But actually, if you are to get into a sauna or a hot shower or a hot bath and then get out, your body is going to engage particular mechanisms for cooling itself off that are going to allow you to drop your temperature more quickly and fall asleep more easily. And this is why many people find that falling asleep after a nice hot shower, bath, or sauna is really, really easy and really terrific. It's sort of a natural state that follows hot baths, saunas, and showers. So how would you do this? Well, we did an entire episode on this topic as well, the use of sauna for sake of growth hormone release. If you want to check that out and all the details, you can look at the episode on growth hormone. You will experience a growth hormone release from sauna, hot bath, and hot shower, provided they are done for sufficient duration and sufficiently high temperature. For all the details of that, please go to that episode. It's all laid out there. It's all time-stamped. It's all captioned in English and Spanish, etc. But basically what we're talking about is 20 minutes in the sauna. Or if you're one of those folks who's really chasing growth hormone release, you could do 20 minutes, then get out of the sauna for 10 minutes and just cool off at room temperature, and then get back into the sauna, then get out, and then shower or dry off and head to bed. Shorter bouts of sauna will work also. The longer bouts of sauna cooling have been shown to lead to huge increases in growth hormone, and growth hormone, of course, is involved both in muscle growth, but also growth and metabolism of all tissues. Fat metabolism and repair of various tissues. So it's not just about growth. You hear growth hormone, you think hypertrophy, but the enhancement of metabolism and health and repair in a number of tissues. So that's one way you can leverage heat toward the transition to sleep, by the ways in which exposure to heat actually cools off your body. Now let's talk about actually getting to sleep. And let's talk about behavioral protocols first. It is absolutely true that keeping the room very dark is beneficial. Some people, including myself, have thin eyelids, and it doesn't take much light to wake up the brain and body. So keeping a room very dark is essential. The other thing is keeping the room cool. You've probably heard this before. Keep the room cool, get under warm blankets. But rarely is it discussed why keeping the room cool is useful. The reason keeping the room cool is useful for getting into and staying asleep is that throughout the night, there are phases of sleep where you are paralyzed, so-called REM sleep. That's a healthy paralysis, so you can't act out your dreams. But there are portions of the night where you can move, and one of the more important movements that you do in the middle of the night is put your hand out or your foot out, or you take your face out from under the covers as a means to cool yourself, and you do this while you are asleep. If you are in a cool room, you can put yourself under the blankets to stay warm, and then if you want to cool off, you can simply remove a limb, or you can toss the covers off entirely. However, if you are in a room that's too warm, it's very hard to cool off. You would need a bucket of ice water, or to get up and turn on the air conditioning or something of that sort, or turn on the fan. So it's a simple but non-trivial way in which we can improve our entrance to sleep and staying asleep. So keep the room cool or cold and get under warm blankets. And if you want to understand more about why putting a hand out or a foot out is valuable for cooling, I did an episode on the role of cooling in something called heat dumping, or bringing heat into the body through the palms, the face, and the bottoms of the feet. You've got these portals, these radiators, if you will, that allow us to bring heat into the body and to dump heat. I don't want to go into the details now, but that episode is entitled Supercharge Your Exercise with Cold. This is based on work that was done by Craig Heller's lab at Stanford University. absolutely incredible data showing that the proper use of palmar cooling, so the palms or the upper half of the face or the bottoms of the feet, can vastly increase the volume of exercise that one can do and still recover from that exercise and derive benefits from it. But this method of cooling for exercise is grounded in a basic physiological function of our palms, the bottoms of our feet, and our face, which is to dump heat or to allow cool to pass into the body. So that's why in the middle of the night, as long as you're not in REM sleep, if you get too warm, you put your foot out or you put your arms out. You're actually allowing cooling of the body through what are called AVAs, arteriovenous astomoses is the technical name, that are in the palms, the upper half of the face and the bottoms of the feet. And that's a very efficient way to cool off your body. So you do that subconsciously. Now, there are things that one can take to enhance the transition to sleep. I am not a fan of melatonin for enhancing the transition to sleep for a couple of reasons. One, dosages of melatonin are far too high in most supplements. Melatonin can have some negative effects on the sex steroid hormones, testosterone and estrogen. That's a serious concern. Third, melatonin's role during puberty or around puberty is to suppress the onset of puberty. So that's concerning. I don't know that people should be taking this hormone that has all these other effects. The other reason is that melatonin will aid the transition to sleep, but it won't keep you asleep. And many people that take melatonin find that they fall asleep more quickly, but then they wake up unable to fall back asleep. 3 compounds that can be very beneficial for aiding the transition to sleep and for which there are wide safety margins, although please do check with your physician before taking anything, are specific forms of magnesium, something called apigenin and theanine. Magnesium comes in many forms. Magnesium malate has been shown to improve recovery from sore muscles. For instance, magnesium citrate is an excellent laxative, for instance. Magnesium threonate, that's threonate, threonate, and magnesium biglycinate have transporters that allow them to cross the blood-brain barrier more readily than other forms of magnesium. And there within the brain, they promote the release of a neurotransmitter called GABA, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter which shuts off the forebrain to some extent. It doesn't shut it off completely, but it essentially shuts down thinking, rumination, planning, and what we call executive function. So for many people, taking 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium biglycinate or magnesium threonate, and there I'm referring to the elemental magnesium for you aficionados. Many people find that doing that 30 to 60 minutes before sleep can aid them in falling asleep, can really help them fall asleep faster and stay asleep. Some people, however, achieve some gastrointestinal discomfort from magnesium and therefore should avoid it. Magnesium threonate and magnesium biglycinate for many people work, however, and when coupled with apigenin and theanine provide a sort of synergy or a sleep cocktail that seems to be very effective in aiding the transition to sleep. So apigenin is the substance that's found in chamomile, and 50 milligrams of apigenin taken 30 minutes before sleep can act as another way to shut off the forebrain and reduce rumination, reduce anxiety, and allow people to fall and stay asleep. I did a podcast with Dr. Daria Rose. She's got an excellent podcast that I highly recommend you check out. It covers a number of different health, scientific, and other subjects. And she's a PhD in neuroscience, terrific scientist, etc. She's a big fan of apigenin, as am I. And then the third compound is theanine, Theanine. Theanine is a compound that can also increase GABA, but also increases activation of something called chloride channels. Chloride channels are another way in which neurons turn themselves off or turn each other off. Not turn each other off in the way that we're typically heard, like that turns me off, but turn them off and then shut them down, lower their levels of activity. So magnesium threonate or biglycinate, apigenin, and theanine in combination can be very effective for aiding the transition to sleep. And I realize that not everyone wants to take supplements. I certainly am not pushing any of these. I would hope that everybody be able to fall asleep easily and stay asleep for the duration of time that they want without any supplemental help. But I do think it's important to point out some things that lie somewhere between doing nothing and taking prescription drugs, because many of the prescription drugs associated with sleep, and you all know what those are, carry other side effects. They can create bad dreams, often very disturbing dreams. They can be addictive or at least habit forming. They can create grogginess in the morning. Some are safer than others. There's a variety of them out there. But for those that want to explore supplements and how they can impact sleep, this combination of about 300, 400 milligrams of magnesium threonate or biglycinate, 50 milligrams of apigenin, and 100 to 200 milligrams of theanine, alone or in combination, have been beneficial to many people. And there are excellent studies to support those statements. Again, I suggest you go to examine.com and look up the human effect matrix for each of those compounds, and you can explore them. One of the more interesting aspects to magnesium threonate and biglycinate is that it seems to have some neuroprotective effects as well. There aren't many studies on it, but the few studies that are there point to the fact that magnesium threonate and magnesium biglycinate can also support neuron health and neuron longevity, which is just an added bonus in my opinion.